Croeso I benwythnos Syl y Blodau. Welcome to Palm Sunday weekend. A great weekend for a procession, especially if, like this year, it's the first time for 3 Palm Sundays that the churches will actually be open. Sadly, I still won't be there this year because COVID has finally come to the vicarage and Errol and I are having to isolate. If I'm honest, I've always been a bit ambivalent about processions. There's something so alienating about them, whether you're involved in them or watching them. All that hierarchy, all that precedence you line up according to who's more important. All that concern with choreography, getting it right. And the sense of a formality and a display of power. Well, I struggle with it, if I'm honest. Except there are times when a procession is just the best way to express what you want to say. In a parish, when people have taken a step of faith, a bishop comes to confirm people, and you have a procession at the end when everybody claps and cheers these people, young or old, who've done the most wonderful thing and been received by God. Or the more than 10 years I spent preparing candidates for a call to ordination and saw them become priests or deacons in the cathedral, and that wonderful sense that they were doing something with God's help and part of a journey that would continue from that moment through life and ministry. There is no joy quite like knowing people's stories and seeing where they've come to. Maybe that first procession, the one outside the gates of Jerusalem, was more like those joyful occasions. It certainly was pretty ad hoc, maybe even disorganised. It was noisy and unruly. There were complaints. And there was something provisional about it. People grabbed what they could find. They put down their cloaks on the road, and of course they grabbed the palm branches, hence the name. If we'd been standing on the walls of Jerusalem trying to understand what was happening, maybe for a moment we'd have just seen the palms and not realised they were being held by people. Perhaps we would have thought that the trees were moving, like those wonderful moments when the wind blows all the branches in the same direction, or scuds across the surface of a sea and stirs up the waves. Maybe if that's what we'd seen, or thought we'd seen, we would have been reminded of Isaiah's wonderful prophecy in chapter 55. For you shall go out in joy, and be led back in peace, and the mountains and the hills shall burst into song, and the trees of the field shall clap their hands. The simplest definition of a procession is a group of people all travelling the same way. And although very quickly everything unravelled and we had the awful events of Holy Week, the cost of our salvation being that same crowd crying out, "Crucify him," just for a moment, outside the gates of Jerusalem, around their humble king on a donkey, everyone was travelling in the same direction. And I suppose my prayer as I reflect upon the last 2 years of pandemic, the awful suffering in Ukraine, and all the other troubles of this world, is that when we cry out together, when we experience the same loss, when we have the same sense of desire for peace, just in those moments when we, if you like, travel in the same direction, that's when we're closest to Jesus. Whether your Syl y Blodau is, as it is for many Welsh people, taking flowers to the grave of a loved one, whether it is, as it is for Christians all over the world, holding a palm cross, I pray that we would travel in the same direction, from loss to life, from despair to God's redeeming love. May this be a blessed Holy Week, and may we soon celebrate together again. Amen.